right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to TCCA 2020. If you're just now joining us, welcome back if you were in our keynote or session 2. This is now session 3. We're here live with Kaileigh Newman. She's a director of visual art for Aldine ISD. She's got a great session for you guys today. So just a couple reminders. If you have questions, go ahead and type them in our YouTube chat window. We have myself and Dr. Michael and Kelly moderating that. So we will either answer your question or we will pop it up on the screen for Kaileigh to see, and she will address it whenever she has time in her presentation. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to her. Make sure that you're in here till the end of the session. We will put the super secret word for your certificate up on the screen. So don't leave before you get that so that you can get credit for this session. So Kaileigh, go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Dr. Kelly, for being in the back channels, monitoring the chat. And good morning, everybody. I'm so excited to be here today. The energy from Michael Bonner and then the second session, it's just a great time to refocus and focus in this time of our school year. So yeah, like Matt said, I'm Kaileigh Newman, the Director of Visual Arts. And you're going to see a lot of flamingos in this presentation because it's part of our theme in the visual arts department is be a flamingo in a flock of pigeons. And so today we're going to make some art. We're going to express ourselves through text and images, and I hope you enjoy. Something that you may want to download is the Flipgrid app. I know we probably all have our personal accounts. We're going to use this QR code. And there's the code to join at some point, but I'm going to give you a moment to download the app because it does work better, especially if you're viewing this on your personal laptop. You may want your device to be able to scan the QR code or type in the chat or the code to get into Flipgrid. All right, and so at some point we're going to share our artwork since, we can't share, we're not in like a live Zoom, so we can't hold up our artwork like we would in a classroom or asynchronous learning, but we will be using Flipgrid to share our artwork and get feedback from one another. So this is my first year as the Director of Visual Arts. I've been in Aldine my entire teaching career. I was at Eisenhower Senior for several years teaching visual arts. I was an AP there as well. And again, this is my first year as the Director of Visual Arts. So in this virtual classroom that I created at the beginning of COVID, I wanted to share some samples of teacher artwork. So this is a presentation we did at our district staff development where I thought teachers really needed to feel relieved and express themselves through what they know best, art. And so this is where this project stemmed from. So you can see here in the back, this is one of the examples from one of our high school teachers. This is my example of the end product. And then this is one of our middle school teachers. So what we're going to be doing is writing down some words of how we're feeling and then connect them to images of hope. To anchor us in our learning today, these are our guiding questions that will then connect to our learning objectives. So how can I connect my emotions to visual representations? How will I use the elements and principles of art to communicate my ideas to the viewer or audience? And if you're not in visual arts teachers, that doesn't matter. The elements and principles of art are our language in visual arts. So there's a natural instinct that you'll have when you're creating art that will be highlighted through this process. And how does art communicate emotion to the viewer? So during this time of COVID, we've had a lot of feelings and emotions, and I think it's important to own those feelings and emotion and reflect on them so that we don't project them or don't get bogged down by them. And I really love this practice. And it was actually something I did before I started district staff development with the anxiety of being a new director and the fears of being a new director. I needed to create something that made me feel better so that I would feel lighter and could guide the teachers and be that voice for the teachers of Aldine Visual Arts. And then our learning objectives for today. I will know how to identify negative feelings and how making art can eliminate those feelings through images of hope. I will understand how to arrange text, color, and shape in an artwork. So text, color, and shape are 3 elements of art that we're going to focus on so that you can elevate that artwork. And then lastly, I will be able to create an artwork that expresses my emotions. I will be able to provide feedback through technology, which we're going to use as Flipgrid. So I think feedback is so important for ourselves and for our students. And it's difficult during this time to give that feedback live and in person. But I think Flipgrid is a great tool to be able to see our students, see our peers, and be able to think and type in that response or respond through a video. And Flipgrid has been a great tool for the teachers of Aldine ISD to respond to their students. So what you will need, and I'm going to give you a moment to collect these items, a piece of paper, 8 by 10 or larger, a pencil. Some of you are going to feel that instinct to sketch first and have a plan. I want you to let go. I want you to be loose. We're creating artwork, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Not everybody has to feel like they're an artist, but today you're going to feel like that. Colored pencils, markers, or crayons. In fact, I have a very limited color palette today. I'm going to be using some compressed charcoal because I used it in a workshop last week with my teachers. A straight edge or ruler, and then a scrap of paper for our sketches or brainstorming. So I'm going to give you a moment to get those items collected. If you have lined paper, that's fine, but I hope it's going to be something that can keep your focus and your perspective, and remember the lightness you're going to feel while you're releasing the negative feelings or emotions, and then again creating those positive images of hope. Okay, so for 5 minutes, again, erasing fears through images of hope. What I would like you to do is, with a brain dump on a scrap of paper, write down 5 to 10 negative words. And I would connect them to your feelings, not just random negative words, but how you are feeling. So write down 5 to 10 negative words. And I will say, after my first 2 sessions, I'm feeling much lighter today. But at the beginning of your day, if there was something that was really bogging you down, like it took me a lot to get out of bed this morning and leave my family and come in, but it's totally worth it. Totally worth hearing Michael Bonner and connecting with people virtually and hearing the second session. I was with Miss Scott. So gonna pause and leave you some wait time of writing down those 5 to 10 negative words. And as I would in a classroom, I'm going to time us. So I get 5 to 10 negative words. And we've got a couple more minutes. And if you're my GT group and you know those words right away that were bogging you down today, go ahead and think about images that would contrast those negative words. So, for example, I have sleep, timelines, agendas, control. That's something I'm working on. And then the last session I listened to talked about letting go. So being able to be flexible, right? My baby's in the terrible twos, so tantrums happen a lot in my household right now. It's a blessing. I love my daughter, but those terrible twos, they're not joking. COVID mask, Zoom. So then what I'm going to do is think about those images that contrast those thoughts or negative words. And if you're struggling to think of an image, you can use your phone to Google something. I have some images on my desk or some items on my desk that I use for direct observation. So one thing that focuses me daily is this prayer book that a colleague gave to me, and it has a daily reflection and a daily passage, and it just keeps me grounded and centered. So that's one image of hope that I'm drawing on my page so that I can transfer it onto my final product. The other thing is, like I said, we're flamingos here in Aldine. It's a great tradition and symbol that the previous director, Dr. Kaileigh, started last year. So I have flamingos in my office, and the visual arts teachers here in Aldine definitely keep me focused on my work and keep me positive and keep me going every single day to make sure I can be there for them to support them, so that they can be there to support our students. So the flock of flamingos here in Aldine, whether it's a visual arts teacher or those who are passionate about the visual arts in Aldine and across Texas, they're amazing. And we have about 1 more minute to get our negative words and our 3 to 5 images of hope. And the last thing for me is my family and my daughter, Colette. And for Colette, her image is a heart. Very early on in her life, she had open heart surgery. And so she teaches me every day about her strength as a baby, and her resilience and her, just strength to carry on and what that means for our family to come through that. Okay, so time is up. Hopefully you have your words and your images. And what you're going to do next is trace 3 shapes on your paper. They can be squares, circles, it can be an organic shape, but what you're going to do is trace them, trace 3 on your paper. Now, I selected 3 images of hope. If you did 5, you could create 3 to 5 different shapes. So however many images of hope you had, that's what you're going to trace on your paper. I have Post-its all over my office, so squares have been a trending shape in this sample of our work. It doesn't have to be a geometric shape. It can be an organic shape. But like I said, I have lots of Post-its in my office, and that's what I'm going to trace on mine. Something you may also want to consider is the objects, right? So I put a heart for my family. Again, I have this book of quotes from the Bible. So that's a square. So you could change it. It could be a heart, it could be a circle, and it could be a rectangle. So you may want to change your objects or your shapes to best fit your objects that you've come up with. And then think about that composition, right? So if I want my Bible here and maybe my heart of my family, and then lastly, my flamingo, how are they going to go? And you can be horizontal or vertical. A lot of artistic license in this. And I'm using pen. You could use pencil. And I'm going to use 2 Post-its to create kind of that heart shape for, like I said, the other image of mine, my family. You could also think about scale. If your objects, if there is an order or a size of priority in your life, you could make those a little bit larger. So I use I doubled the size.
Kaileigh, one of the questions in the chat is about, they're confused about whether they should trace on top of the pictures or tracing around the picture. I think about putting the squares down or the circles or the triangles.
So if you've gone to your scrap paper of brainstorming and your brain dump, then we're going to a new shape or a new piece of paper where you are tracing those shapes. Does that clarify? So new shapes, new piece of paper, tracing around. And this image is actually when I referenced when I needed to do this activity to feel lighter, I use sidewalk chalk, and that paper in the image is 18 by 24, and so I sketched that with chalk, and then I drew my images on sidewalk chalk in front of my house.
Studio time, did that answer your question? Trying to respond to yes, that did. Great. Thank you, Kaileigh.
Yeah, thank you guys. I know it's a little difficult with creating a product and being virtual. So thank you, Dr. Kelly and Matt, for assisting in that. So you have a little bit of time to work on your shapes where your images are going to go. But for my GT group, I'm going to give us about 5 to 10 minutes. What you're going to start to do is all those negative words are going to be the background surrounding those images. So you're going to repeat them in different ways. You can write them with thick letters, bubbly letters, thin. Think about the thin and thickness. So let me show you where you should be. What we've done is our brain dump. We've brainstormed our images of hope, and we've jotted down those 10 negative words. What we're going to do with these 10 negative words is create them in the background for our composition or our final product. And when you're doing that, you should think about the thinness and thickness of those lines. Another example I did, again, this is the final product. You can't tell what these words are, so you could be writing in cursive. But if you want something to stand out, you may want to use thicker and thinner thick lines, bright colors. Like I said, today I'm going to have a limited color palette. I'm going to be using pen in the background, and then my pastels as my objects. This is crayon on watercolor paper, but I did a great job of blending and creating different values. So in your background, around those shapes you've marked as placeholders for your images of hope, you're going to write those negative words. And I'm going to give us 5 minutes. If you're one of those folks who really needs to think about this, you may not finish this product at the end of the presentation, and that's okay. As long as you have something to share with our group when we go into the Flipgrid breakout. When you're writing your words in the background, you can even think about how could you create a visual of that word that represents, so like control, and I'm writing and trying to spell, that's a lot, it's like chewing gum and walking, right? But for control, that's really rigid for me, so I use block letters. For sleep, I wanted to feel dreamy and whimsical. You should be filling the page so that those spaces you've created for your images of hope stand out.
Kaileigh.
Yes.
Hey, it's Michael again.
Hi.
I was just thinking, I was looking at some of the participants, and they are like nurses and some ELA people. And I was thinking, what a great way to have if you have a student that's having a bad day, to come in and just get out what's bothering them.
Absolutely.
Or even I thought with the ELA, what a great way to talk about how type style has meaning to words. I think of, what is that, the Goosebumps series for the little ones that have the little goofy headline, but what a way to incorporate those into some other subject matter.
Yeah, especially if you're noticing a kid is not themselves. What if they could just write down how they're feeling? Or even your staff, if you're noticing your staff is really struggling of coping, just to be able to write down and identify those feelings, that would be a great thing. Or even, what if you're looking at a new content or a new unit and the kids could write the words in the background and then the visuals, kind of like a different Feldman model, right? No. Feldman is art criticism. Who am I thinking of, Dr. Kelly?
Madeline Hunter, or
where you would create a synonym and an image and what is that note card?
I don't know. I'm blanking. Matt, do you know? But what I think is
vocabulary, absolutely.
I know. But yeah, and especially what a way to bring in, like, I'm thinking like a poetry lesson and how to have the words, or onomatopoeia. Isn't that when words sound in the great way to bring in type fonts? But that just came to my head.
Fair model. Thank you, Kim. Fair model.
Thank you. See, with it, that's the reason why it takes a village. and that's also the reason why leadership matters. Thank you, Kim.
Mm-hmm. Or even a different way to do a comic strip. If you're talking about storytelling, or if it's a choice option for students, getting them to express themselves. If they're a great artist, they could definitely show what they know through a concrete poem in the background, and then they get to illustrate 3 concepts through a visual. And you don't need paint and oil pastels. It can be paper and crayons and markers. It could be pencil. Like I said, I'm doing mine with a pen, and then in here can be the color. Okay, so to keep us on track, I'm going to give us another minute, and then we're going to move forward. And if you, so a lot of the art teachers, this was their first unit or their first product with students, and it was a great way to get to know the students, especially when you couldn't greet them at the door, and we are all virtual learning. So it was a great check-in to see how they're feeling. A lot of them were feeling defeated or scared, and so that's a great leverage moment to have that conversation with them, to send them an email, or even to know it's your kid, you need to check in without them telling you I need to check in, because they don't know that. I have one teacher who sends happy birthday messages to the kids because it's on our attendance portal. And so they'll see their kids whose birthday it is and they say, hey, happy birthday. And that means a lot to how the teacher can connect with them through virtual learning. Okay, so that was a minute. Okay, so like I was saying, the elements and principles of art. I'm not removing value, form, and texture, but we are focusing on line, shape, color, and space. And we'll use texture value when we create our images of hope. Some great artists who are examples of using color, shape, line, and space. This ranges. Barbara Kruger with some editing would be a great artist to show high school students, where how she talks about voice and opinions. But I love this space. Like, this is an exhibition where you walk in and can you imagine being immersed in all of these words? And then Robert Indiana with his love, great example of graphic design and the use of color and shape. Okay, so using the words from our brain dump, we're going to create those images in the spaces we left. So hopefully yours looks similar to this, where you filled in the background, and now you're going to go into these blank spaces and put in your images of hope. And give us 5 minutes. And we're creating our images of hope. I'm behind, so I'm going to keep filling in my background. I think mood is students definitely need to understand mood, and they need to know how to identify it. So how do you know that is the mood? And how can they write about that? Connecting writing in the visual arts is something our elementary teachers do an amazing job. They can inference that somebody is feeling sad, but what about the character or the words connects to your inferencing it that you know they're sad? You have 3 minutes. Again, 45 minutes probably isn't enough time to complete the image. If you have, that's great. If you haven't, it's definitely something you can go back to and continue on when maybe you are feeling like those negative words are pulling you down. I know I have a sample piece that I created in a workshop last week with art teachers, and we drew lines that represented music that we were listening to. And through that, I found this rooster. And so once I, kind of have like a roadblock in whatever I'm doing, I take a minute and I go back to that artwork so that I can have this creative space and be able to make something. And then I come back to my work kind of as a focus point. And we have 2 minutes. in a minute. You know, it's interesting to me. I did not predict to use the two words control and sleep today, but I felt like nobody in my household last night was letting me sleep. My daughter woke up at like 2:00 in the morning, like throwing a temper tantrum in her sleep, could not be consoled except for by her teddy bears. So, yeah, I did not have control for my sleep last night. Yes, the Aldine logo. I love our new logo because of the negative space and the pencil. I just think it's well done, and it's something. My work definitely gets me focused, and I love my job. I love working with the teachers of Aldine and the visual arts teachers, and we inspire, impact, and connect, right? And time. Okay, so we're going to do a Twitter break. I want to know how it felt to release those negative words. So if you could take a picture and tweet out at Newman Kaileigh. We use the hashtag AldineArt, and then you can obviously use your Twitter handle because that's coming from you and your campus. So I think it's an important thing to connect on social media, let your campus know or your district know what you're doing today at TCCA. So again, take a moment. I know it takes a moment to create a tweet. We use the hashtag Aldine Anywhere as well. But I'd love to know who's out there, maybe not from Aldine, and how you're going to use this, or again, how it felt to connect to those feelings and put it in artwork or words. In about 30 seconds. Tweet sent, done. Okay, so next we're going to go to our Flipgrid. The code is on the screen, so is the QR code, and you are going to select 2 of the sentence stems as a response for our mid-critique. So this is, again, a way to provide feedback before you get to the end, or if you want feedback before you finish. So somebody's going to mute me, and I'm going to do the same thing so I can see all your responses. But here are our 5 sentence stems, and sentence stems are something we use in the visual arts classroom so that we can guide our students and model how to talk about art. So in my artwork I created, this reminds me of, I was inspired by the colors that should stand out to you the most, because I use the colors or shapes to communicate. So talking about your process. And we're doing 10 minutes for that. And I am told, again, if you have the Flipgrid app on your phone, it does work a little bit better than just scanning and opening up into Safari or Google. And then you can also find those questions or those sentence stems in the Flipgrid section.
Kaileigh. Hey, it's Michael Ann again.
Hey, Dr. Kelly.
So what is one of the reasons why you're choosing to use sentence stems? What are you modeling for our participants?
We're modeling how to help students talk about artwork. Typically, we use the Feldman model with art criticism, description, analysis, judgment, and what am I missing?
Interpretation.
Thank you. And so often when you ask a student, what do you think about this? It's not clear enough. That's too broad. You need to give them a starting point so that you can get to a real conversation, and that builds them. So when they write an artist statement, these sentence stems are going to help them create their opinion and their judgment about artwork. So it's like a pathway.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. It's like old times, Dr. Kelly. But this is the new normal. So I'm embracing it today. I'm just going to like air hug it. Five minutes. I just submitted my video and I forgot I cracked the front of my screen so that I guess I could just say it was a filter. Okay, and last but not least, you have some time to work on those on your final product, and establish and finalize some of your images of hope in those spaces. Like I said, I've created this a couple of times with the visual arts teachers of Aldine and seen some great products that they've used for the beginning of the school year with students and getting to know them and engage and see how students are expressing themselves through art, but also being able to communicate how they're feeling. So I will say this is my more established product throughout these. I think this is the third time because middle school and high school and elementary presented, and now at TCCA. And so I definitely took some time to develop these images here. It took me a little bit to remember what our logo looked like because I did it the opposite way. I put red as the A instead of the negative space. But if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat and Dr. Kelly or Matt will send them through. About product, about media.
Kaileigh,
Yes.
how would a question would be how would you use this or use this kind of strategy with your English language learners?
Our English language learners, I think they could demonstrate their understanding through visual demonstration, whether it was in the science classroom, if they're looking at life cycles. But I think giving students the choice and opportunity to be able to express themselves through a creative outlet rather than a worksheet is going to be more powerful for the student. Or even selecting a text, right? Like if you had to highlight the words from a text and then create it in the background. And then what if you're talking about main point and you get to create a visual demonstration of main point or theme from that reading?
Yeah, I was even thinking like what you were talking about earlier with using the type with your text. You could have them write words in Spanish or whatever their native language is in one color, and then have them practice translating in another color and create a really diverse piece that way too. I was just thinking great EL use using your concept.
Yeah, especially knowing that their language, is important, that it's definitely a part of them. And so to be able to embed that in their learning and then translate that and back and forth, and whether they're sharing it virtually with their peers or in the classroom, I think for their own personality to share through their learning is going to make an impact as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then if you are going to use crayon with this, because I think crayons are something that are super accessible, if you have watercolor, a wax resist would look really nice too. So all of that white in the background could be eliminated. And so then those images of hope would stand out more. So what I'm saying is if you take, let's say, so we're looking at a lot of reds, you could do a pink in the background, or you could do a light green. So that would be the complementary colors. And again, these images would really pop, which is why I did the green in the background of the flamingos for that complementary. And then a dark blue to push that value. And so again, if you took a watercolor, just one color, and you did a light wash, so a lot of water, a little bit of color, all this white would disappear and your images would really pop, but your crayon would still stay there because, you know, science is amazing. And those of you who shared, thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you, Kaileigh, for this amazing session. Lots of great information in here, lots of technology integration using Flipgrid, Twitter, different ways that participants can respond. Also stuff that you can use in your classroom. You don't have to limit it to students raising their hand. Give them a chance to reflect using other methods, which you greatly demonstrated here. So the super secret word is at the bottom of the screen. It is inspire for session number 3. As a reminder, it is case sensitive. So make sure you type that with the uppercase I at the beginning. At the conclusion of this session, you'll receive an email with the certificate for session 3. So you can type that in for your password, download the certificate, and then have that for your records. So I'm going to go ahead and close this stream. Thank you to everybody for your participation today. Lots of interaction on our YouTube chat. Lots of great comments, lots of great questions. Thank you again to Dr. Kelly for joining us. I'll bring you on the screen so you can wave bye.
Bye, everyone.
And
bye, bye, bye.
We hope to see you throughout the rest of today. There's another keynote at 11 o'clock, and we'll pick up with session number 4 starting at noon. So thanks again to Kaileigh, and we'll see you again later.